God bless you and welcome to Heart Ministry Radio Network and the Doors to Your Heart. I'm your host, Brenda Divers, and we are dancing in the desert. We haven't been with you for a little bit, and I missed you guys. So we're just going to talk tonight, again, a favorite Bible passage. We're in the book of Ruth. Now, if you like me, you love a love story, and this is a beautiful, beautiful love story. But, in many cases, before we get to that loving part, there's some things that we have to experience. And if you would join me in Ruth chapter 1, again, there are 4 chapters that we're going to just go through. We're just going to pick little parts, about that. We don't have the time to go through the entire book. We encourage you that once we're done, that you go back and read each and every verse of each and every chapter. It's so full of the word and God's love for us. You'll find yourself somewhere in this book, I imagine. So we're starting again in Ruth chapter 1. And as the scene opens, there is a famine in the land of Bethlehem, Judah. And it's so interesting because the word Bethlehem means house of bread. But there is a famine in the house of bread. How about that? And so we learn of Elimelech, and his wife is named Naomi, right? They have 2 sons, Mahlon and Chilion. So Elimelech takes his family to the land of Moab because, again, there's no bread in the house of bread, Bethlehem, Judah. And they stay there for 10 years. And within this time frame, we hear that Elimelech dies, right? So now Naomi is a widow. And so her sons took 2 Moabite women, and their names were Orpah and Ruth. And within, again, this 10-year time span, the sons die. So this is a tragic story just going in. So they hear in the fields that now there is bread. Now there is grain back in the house of bread. So Naomi, she's going back home. There's nothing really to keep her here. She lost her husband and she lost her sons. And again, we're dancing in the desert, and we talk about those experiences that we all go through, and sometimes, we know that those desert experiences are necessary, right? There's nothing that happens to us that is an accident that God doesn't know about. So this is a very grave situation. So Naomi's going to go back home, and she tells her daughter-in-laws, to stay. She tells them even to go back to their families and to their gods. And this part took me a minute to get through because she literally told them to go back to their gods. And one of the gods that they served was Chemosh. And in 1 Kings, the Bible refers to that particular idol or god as the abomination. So she's in fact telling her daughter-in-laws to go back and serve Satan, And again, when we are in those desert experiences, that's why it's so important to watch. Watch our family, watch our friends, those who are going through trying times. We know in these instances, you don't say the right things all the time. You don't do the right things all the time because many times we're acting out of our grief. She told them to go back and serve those gods. But we know she was in a better state of mind that she would not have done that. So again, we need the people who are experiencing trouble, who are experiencing pain, it's our job to rally around them and to help them when we can. And again, if they say something that's kind of off the cuff, just pray for them. Pray for them. Be there for them. Because again, this could have taken another turn. She's like, just go back. Of course, Orpah didn't want to go back, but she conceded and went back. But Ruth said to her, I am not going. She said, where you go, I will go. Where you sleep, I will sleep. Your family, everything is yours. Your God, she said, will be my God. That's a conversion experience. She said, I am not going anywhere. And so at some point, Naomi had to say, okay. And then they continued on. She said, your God will be my God. There was something that she saw in the God of Israel. There's something that she knew that she wanted to be a part of. And again, Ruth herself was mourning. She had lost her husband. But in that moment still she said, I will go with you, and your God will be my God. So praise the Lord for that, right? So they go back to Bethlehem, and when Naomi gets back to the town, they're asking, is this Naomi? I don't know if she changed. What about her made them say, is this Naomi? And she said, don't call me. Don't even call me Naomi. Naomi means what? Pleasant. She said, don't call me that. Call me Mara. Call me bitter, because God has dealt bitterly with me. So she is in mourning. She lost her husband. She lost her sons. And again, this is a time that we really need to rally around people who are going through such hard times. So again, now Ruth is with her mother-in-law. Everybody knows that they're back. And I love how the verse closes. It tells them that they're coming into Bethlehem, Judah, at the time of the wheat and barley harvest, right? That's a nice way to kind of end the verse or end the chapter. So we go into chapter 2, and again, we're just kind of picking because we can't deal with all of this today. But chapter 2 starts off, and Naomi and Ruth are together, and Ruth is saying, I'm going to get up, and I'm going to go, and I'm going to glean. Because again, widows is so interesting. Widows in that time, many of them, they said, starved to death because they didn't have the protection of their husbands. They didn't have the provision of their husbands. And many times they had to rely on what, just kind of the scraps that people would throw them. And sometimes they starved. So Ruth said, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go and glean in the fields. And gleaning was a wonderful, wonderful thing that God even had. He initiated gleaning in Leviticus, and he told the farmers, the way you glean, you would not harvest to the end of your field. You would keep that for the gleaners, for the travelers, and that once you went through the field once, you didn't go through it again, right? He made a plan that those who did not have would be able to pick up the things that were left. The traveler would be able to grab or what's on the edge of the field. God instituted that program that everybody would be taken care of in some way. So she went out. Before she went out, Naomi said, go. She went with her mother-in-law's blessing. And again, this whole love relationship between mother and daughter-in-law is so sweet and so special, right? How's your relationship with your in-laws? Is there something that you can work on, or is it something that you want to work on? This is a beautiful, beautiful relationship between the mother and the daughter-in-law. Amen. So she goes to the field, and I like how the scripture says this, and we're going to touch on it, but we're going to come back to it later. So I love how it says in verse 3. It says she went and she gleaned after the reapers. And it just so happened, right, that field belonged to Boaz. Just so happened. Put your finger there. We're going to come back to that. But I love that part of it. So in walks Boaz. And I love this too, because as soon as he sees his workers, he says, what? The Lord be with you. He greets them so beautifully, right? And then they say, the Lord be with you too. So it's just, he's coming in as a godly man. He's coming in as a person who respects the people who work for him, and they respect him. So it's a wonderful, wonderful relationship. Those of you who are managers or owners, is that the way you greet the people who are working for you, working alongside? Do you go and greet them with the love of God? Do they greet you back with the love of God? This is such a beautiful relationship. And as they're going on, he notices Ruth, right? And he asks, the foreman, he said, who is this damsel? Who is this young lady? And he said that it is Ruth the Moabitess, right? And then he goes to talk about, that she came with her mother-in-law, and that they know all the things that she did. It's so interesting that they know everything about her. She just got there. They know everything about her. They didn't have social media, or their own version of social media. So they knew who she was. They knew that she was a Moabitess. They knew that her husband had died. They know that she came back with Naomi and all of that, and all the kindnesses that she had extended to her mother-in-law. They knew all of that before they even said a word, right? So we need to watch the way we walk through this earth, people are always watching us. People are always watching to see, okay, they said they are Christians. How are they treating this person? How are they doing at their jobs? How are they, how are they doing it at church even? People are always watching. So he comes to her, and certainly greets her and tells her basically what he knows about her. And then he says to her, I've told the men, not to touch you. Boaz comes in the scene as the protector, right? And the provider from day one. He tells the men, don't touch her. And then he says, glean or come with the reapers, come with my lady, the ladies who are reaping in the field. Stay alongside of them, right? But before this, I want to get back to what they told Boaz about Ruth. They said that she came early in the morning and she's been working until now, except for a short break. Right? They've known what she's been doing since she got to the field. Again, somebody's always watching, right? And again, her reputation preceded her. They said she went to take a short rest, but then she was right back at it. So again, when he approaches her, he tells her all the things he knows about her based on what he was told as well. And he tells her to, don't go with the gleaners, come with the maidens, come with the ladies and reap with them. Stay close to them, because I have told the men not to touch you. Right? So again, he's already protecting her. He has the role already as protector. And then he says, he tells the men to even drop some things for her. Take something, just drop them so she can have them. So he's providing, right? When this comes to mealtime, he tells her to come and sit with the ladies. And he's even passes her roasted grain and he tells her to dip her bread into the vinegar. He's treating her like one of his own from day one. And after he's done all these things, she is so overcome. She bows and says, what have I done, right, to receive favor in your sight? And then he goes back and tells her all the things I've heard about you. And read verse 12. I think this is so beautiful. And he talks about the Lord give you back, the God of Israel, under whose wings you've come to trust. Under whose wings you've come to trust. We're under the shadow of the Almighty's wings. Under whose wings you've come to trust. And when she's talking to Boaz, she says that he's bringing her comfort. And in that word comfort, in the Hebrew, some of what that means is, I can breathe. You're allowing me to take a deep breath. The comfort is allowing me to take a deep breath. I'm telling you, I have a hard time getting through Ruth. Ruth, as we're reading all of the things, she's talking about the God of comfort. God. And because of the comfort and with the favor of God, the favor that Boaz is showing her is allowing her to take a deep breath. I'm going to be okay. That is the God we serve. That is the God under whose wings we have come to trust. And because we trust in our God, we can take that deep breath and know that no matter what it looks like, no matter what it's been like, that we have come to trust under the God of Israel, his wings. We have come to trust under his wings. So just know, although things may look really grim sometimes, although there's losses that we experience, that this is not the end of it. God knows the beginning, he knows the middle, and he knows the end. So we need to take refuge under the God of the universe. Let's take our refuge under these wings, right? And those are the wings that she came to trust in. Whew, I'm telling you, it's a hard time getting through this. So again, he tells her to sit with his workers. They share lunch together. They tell her, she just eats and eats until she is full. right? And then after that, she has worked from sun up to sundown. And then after she has put in a full day's work, she goes and beats the grain. So she is a hard worker. She has a reputation that she has established. You can trust her with the things you put her hands to do. And the other thing I love about Ruth in this story is that she didn't presume to glean. She didn't just go to the field and start gleaning. She asked permission to glean. So she was in order, right? She was a woman of order. She went in and followed the procedures. I need to ask these people, is it okay if I do this? And again, all of that got back to Boaz. And as again, he told the men not to touch her, not to speak harshly to her, right? So he's showing up in the story as the protector and the provider, right? So again, as we go through the end of chapter 2, if you can make it through chapter 2, she beats the grain, and she comes up with what's worth maybe 5 gallons. So she's had a good day. She's had a good day in the field, although it was a hard day. She had a good day. And when she comes back to Naomi and Naomi sees all of this, she said, whose field did you go in today? She tells them about Boaz. And then the wheels start working for Naomi. And we're going to talk about that when we come from our break. But again, start from Ruth chapter 1, verse 1 and read all the way through. There's so many things that happen. So we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come right back. Don't go anywhere. God bless you and thank you for watching part 1 of our teaching on Ruth. In the book of Ruth, we're introduced to the kinsman redeemer. And the theme is so strong throughout the 4 chapters. And what did a kinsman redeemer do? Well, some of the things was rescue, to buy back, to bring back, to provide, and to protect. And we know ultimately the kinsman redeemer leads us back to Christ, who redeemed us into himself, who protects us, who provides for us in ways that we cannot. So join us for part 2 of our teaching of Ruth, and in your time of devotion, please read the book of Ruth from chapters 1 through 4 and learn more about our kinsman redeemer. God bless you. Welcome back to Heart Ministry Radio Network and the Doors to Your Heart. We are dancing in the desert. And I tell you, I had to get some tissue on our break because I tell you, when I think about this whole story, I began to, be overwhelmed. I had to get some tissue, so I'm okay now. I'm grateful to be able to take a break because I needed to get myself together. Okay, so again, we're talking about Ruth and Boaz, the beautiful, beautiful love story we talked about in our first segment, how Boaz came in. He came in as the protector and the provider. The thing that the men do naturally. That's what the man does. Protects and provides, right? And he came in the gate that way. And of course she stayed with him or with the maidens to the end of wheat and barley harvest. So there was something happening, right? But we don't know yet what was going on. So, but we do know it appears, again, he is a man of honor, and he told those men, don't touch her, don't harass her, let her go and do what she needs to do along with his maidens. And I think that's just a beautiful story. So in chapter 3, Naomi is seeing what's going on, and she says, I wanna seek rest for you. She wants her daughter-in-law to have her own life and to be established. And she said, I want to seek rest for you. So this is what I want you to do. And that she puts on her matchmaker hat. And it's so wonderful to see even the mothers they're still doing that. They'll see a young godly man, and then they'll kind of say, okay, you need to do this, you need to do that. And she said to Ruth, wash up, put on your best clothes, put on your perfume, because this is what I want you to do. She's going to give the instruction. But I just love this. She told her, this is what you need to do. And now, we know that Ruth came to Bethlehem, Judah, as a widow. We don't know if she's still wearing her widow's clothes. We don't know what she's wearing, but Ruth told her, you're going to just wash, put your best clothes on, smell good, because this is what I need you to do. We know this is at the end of the harvest, and we knew that Boaz would be on the threshing floor. And what happens at the end of harvest, they're beating the grain and all this. This is a joyous time. And she said, just go there, but take note where he is. Don't let anybody know you're there. And again, this may have been a little dangerous too, right? But she said, don't let anybody know you're there. Watch to see where Boaz lays down. He's going to be eating and he's going to be drinking. When his heart is merry, he's going to lay down. Mark the place where he is, right? And then go quietly and uncover his feet. So she's going to uncover his feet and, as an act of submission, lay at his feet and cover herself back up. So again, this may have been a little dangerous for her. They've been drinking and carrying on, merry hearts. And, why did he have to sleep with his grain, right? But we knew because of the situation that sometimes bands came in, and at the end of those harvest times, they would steal the grain. All of the hard work that the reapers have done and so forth, they would steal the grain. So they had to sleep with the grain. So, they could make sure that the grain was protected. So she did as her mother-in-law suggested. She washed up, she put on her best clothes, put her perfume on, went quietly, watched Boaz, and I can imagine how long she had to wait for him to eat and to drink it. How long did she have to do that, right? It was an evening. And it's interesting, it doesn't say how long, but there had to be some time. Sometimes we move before God tells us to move because we say, God, you're moving too slow. There's a time frame that God has establishes, and only he knows the time. And we have to wait. We have to wait until he says so. She had to wait until he laid down and was asleep, and she came quietly and uncovered his feet, laid at his feet. So in the middle of the night at some point, he was jarred, right? He turned and was jarred, like, who is this at my feet? If you can imagine, you're sleeping and all of a sudden somebody's at your feet, what that would feel like. Verse 9, it says that, he asked her, who is this? And she said she was Ruth. And she said for him to spread his coat or his garment over her. And that meant she asked him to marry her. That was bold. That was a bold move, right? Because she said, you are my kinsman. You are a relative. Marry me. Promise to marry me. Whew. I think that took a lot of boldness to do that. Not just going there watching him being, for the right time, laying at his feet in submission. And then when he gets up, cover me, she says. Throw your coat over me. Marry me, basically, because you are a relative. And he said that he would do that, but there is a relative. There's somebody who was closer than him to the family. And he said, but if he wouldn't do it, I will do it. He said, because what? He watched her during this process, and he said she didn't run after the young men, neither rich nor poor. So I guess it shows he's older than she is. But he watched her conduct, right? Again, we're always being watched. And that's a good thing, I think, because sometimes our lives is the only gospel that some people read. They see us and they say, there's something about him, something about her. I'd like to talk to them about that. I'd like what they have. Or conversely, I don't want anything to do with the Lord if that's the way his people act, right? So we want to represent our Father well, and apparently she represented well. And he said, you didn't go after men, young men, wealthy or not, right? She showed herself. She showed herself to be a virtuous woman, right? He showed himself to be a man of honor and virtue. What a beautiful combination. Virtue and virtue locking up together. And he said, there is someone closer, but if they won't redeem you, I will. Right? So he told her to lay back down. And when she woke up, he told her to go before, anybody would know that there was a woman, at the threshing floor. He was very concerned about her reputation, right? And before she left, he told her to give her her scarf, and he measured out 6, measures of barley. She came back. She came back. He said, take this to your mother-in-law. So she came back bearing gifts. And I just love it that he protected her, right? Getting up early before people could recognize each other, right? She got away, or it was sent away very early. So her reputation was protected, and she didn't go away empty-handed. So Naomi was given a gift also. So there was a communion. We don't know if they talked to each other. The Bible doesn't say. But there was something going on that she was protected, Naomi was protected and provided for. God takes care of his own, right? There are some times that we're like, oh God, are you going to help me? He does. But sometimes we have to wait for it. How about that? And I think that waiting is the time that's very difficult for us. But so he told her, before the day is out, or Naomi told Ruth, before the day is out, you're going to know, you're going to have an answer, right? She was very wise. She said, just stay here. Before the day is out, you're going to have an answer, right? Because Boaz was a man of virtue, and she knew that he was going to handle that situation. So again, now we're in chapter 4, and Boaz goes to the entrance of the city at the gate, and that's where the things were handled, transactions were handled. So he gathered 10 of the elders, and the kinsman that was nearer came by. He called him over, told him what was going on. He asked him, would he redeem the property that Elimelech and Mahlon had, and he said he would do that. But he didn't tell him about Ruth initially. So when he said, I will redeem it, then he said, will you redeem Ruth? Will you marry her and raise up seed that was Mahlon's, right? And he said, I can't do that because that will jeopardize what I have, right? Because again, what they did many times, the kinsman redeemer would marry the wife and then raise up seed or have children with her, but his children would be named son of the deceased, right? Because names were really important back then. So it would be that kinsman redeemer would raise up seed in the name of the deceased, right? Male. So he said, no, I can't do that because that would jeopardize something that I'm doing. So he said then he would redeem it, and as a way of saying yes to the transaction, he said, he gave him his sandal, and that was what they did, and that represented that he Boaz, or the kinsman, the nearest one, had relinquished that right to Boaz. So Boaz married his Ruth, right? And they went in together, and the Lord blessed her that she conceived and had a son. And it talks about how joyous the ladies were and how excited they were. So the women, right, they named the child Obed. And he laid on Naomi's lap, and she became her nurse, so she was close. She was able to take care of her grandbaby. And how excited, what I want you to see is the excitement of Naomi now. She went from being bitter back to pleasant, right? The Lord restored to her. She was able to see this beautiful child being born. She was able to see her daughter-in-law marrying a very virtuous, a man of virtue, a man of standing, a man that could really protect and provide for her. She was given a grandbaby, right? And so she's joyous. Everybody is excited, at what God has done. And the interesting thing is what Obed was the father of Jesse. Jesse was the father of David. So we already see the bloodline, right? And it's just an exciting, what a heartfelt story, And the thing, I know I said to hold your finger in chapter 2, verse 2, when it said that Ruth, by chance, or as it would happen, she wound up in the field of Boaz, like it was a coincidence. There's nothing that happens in our life that is a coincidence. God tells us to do specific things and we have to do them, right? And sometimes we're like, well, God, do you hear what I'm saying? Do you hear my call? Do you see what I'm doing? He tells us to do the work that he calls us to do. And then, as it would happen, you get a phone call. The thing that you've been wanting for, or someone hands you something, or as it would happen, you meet up with someone, right? God has your steps already ordered. He already has your as it would happen, right? You just have to do what he's called you to do. Leave the details to him, right? He's got your back. He says, those that wait on the Lord will renew their strength. They will mount up with wings of eagles. They will run and not be weary. They will walk and not faint. He tells us to wait on the Lord and be of good courage, and he will strengthen our heart. Wait, he says, on the Lord. He also says what? And in Matthew 6:33, what? Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and what? All these things will be added unto us. We're not responsible for the details. We are responsible for the job he tells us to do. Get busy with the job he told you to do. And as it would happen, it's going to come your way. As it would happen, you're meeting this person or you're meeting that, or as it would happen, someone shows up. God already has it as it would happen for you. We just have to be obedient to what he calls us to do. As we are in these desert experiences, certainly like Naomi and Ruth was, you see that it wasn't their end. There was something else happening for them. They had to go through that time of sorrow. They had to go through that time of loss, right? But on the other side of that was joy and excitement and fulfillment. They were what? Under the wings of the Almighty God. So those are the wings that we have to be under, and those are the wings that we have to trust in, right? I'm telling you, this story has so much in it that we could not get through it all. But again, we hope that as we do these stories and as we do this dance in the desert, that you go back and you read the passage of scripture, because there's something in there specifically for you. There's something in there that you need to strengthen your heart, to allow you to get back in the race, right? We know we all have those desert experiences. They're necessary, but it's not the end, right? It's not the end of us. It's something that we have to go through, and as we go through, we should be strengthened by it, right? We should learn those lessons so we don't have to repeat those tests again. But what a wonderful story. And women, as you are looking or just building yourself up to be ready for marriage and so forth, the man who finds you will find a good thing, right? And obtain favor with the Lord. So don't go after him. Don't go after him. God has him for you, and he will find you. How about that? He will find you. And when he finds you, he will find the virtue, right? And that thing, that virtuous woman, well, he will find favor with God because of you. Isn't that wonderful? Your husband finds favor with God because of you. So walk in the light as he is in the light. I'm telling you, dance in the desert. There's always somebody. We see from this passage, there's always somebody who's going through, or you yourself. And as we are watching each other, if we can help. We can always pray. Always pray. Again, thank you for joining us again here at Heart Ministry Radio Network and the Doors to Your Heart. We are dancing in the desert. I am your host, Brenda Divers. And again, it's always so heartfelt, and it's always so great to spend time with you. Join us here at heartministryradio.com. Go to our HMN TV channel. We are streaming live, our streaming church, 24 hours, 7 days a week. We'd love for you to join us. We just appreciate you. So partner with us. If you would love to help with the ministry, just go to our Heart Ministry Radio page and hit our donate button. We would love for you to partner with us in that way. And again, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you again next time. God bless you.